Good evening and welcome to you. What a pleasure it is to meet in this way. What a pleasure. So, I have a bunch of announcements. I better get to those real quick. Okay, so this Wednesday, unfortunately, there'll be no meditation and no Kundalini group. There's a small chance, there's always a small chance that I'll show up. And if so, I'll post it on Facebook, but most likely not. And then also, Satsang this coming Sunday, the 28th. I don't think I'll be doing that either, just because we'll be just getting off the in-person retreat. So just keep that in mind. But then as soon as I get back, we'll have all the classes and everything will return to normal with the schedule. And then we have an online retreat for those of you who can't make it to the in-person retreat in San Diego this week. That's May 31st through June 2nd. And the details are on my website now. So I hope you can sign up for that. I look forward to being with you all on retreat sometime soon. And many of you in person, which will be lovely. Which will be lovely. Okay, let's do this. Just before we begin tonight, let us shut down our eyes, just dropping into the heart. And I invite you just to notice right here, right now. How is this most precious space of the heart? Is my heart happy and relaxed and at ease? Is there a wondrous feeling of unity and freedom? Or is there any struggle? And if there's a struggle here, let's breathe a gentle sense of love and compassion into our human heart. Inviting our humanity to relax, to let go. Inviting our humanity to be met with love, with kindness, with sweetness. And maybe there's something in there we really need to let go of. Maybe someone we need to forgive. And again, I'll ask you, can you open in a spiritual sense? Opening to the healing, calming space of silence and spaciousness. And feeling deep into the center of the heart. You may notice this point of absolute good. And can we get in touch? The depth of our spiritual heart. This innate goodness, innocence, and purity. And sometimes on the path we get a little lost or knocked out of center. And can you plug deeply into the purity of your heart? Inviting all anxiety to drop away, to be met, to be soothed. And let us invite this love both for ourselves and for our hearts, but also for all of creation, all those who are struggling and suffering. All the parts of us that are lost and confused. Let us send love. Let us invite love. Let us welcome grace and support from heaven above. May our hearts be fully opened and fully plugged into the divine, recharged, nourished. So the body is being held in silence. The body is being held in love. The body is being held in grace. And inviting this grace just to wash all over the subtle energetic body, washing over the crown, the third eye, the throat, the heart, and really receiving this grace, receiving this sweetness and this love, and saying, yes, yes, thank you. Thank you for this light and this love. Continuing to welcome this flow down into the solar plexus, down to the hara, the pelvis, and the root. Inviting this grace to flow all the way down through subtle energetic body. It's blessing you, awakening you, recharging you, rejuvenating any aspect of your being which is suffering, which feels disconnected. And inviting this grace to flow all the way down into the earth. All the way down into the earth. And so you can gently open your eyes if you like, and I'll welcome you here into this moment. And I'm going to invite all of us to continue to plug into the divine. Now, it's not so important that we hear the words that I say, or the dogma, or the philosophy, or the teachings. But what I'm inviting for all of us is to stay plugged into the divine. We've all had that moment on our phone where we had 10 apps open and that phone had a really low battery, maybe 3%. It just starts to fade. And it stops working and starts shutting down, and just the whole thing goes kaput. And many of us have this experience every day on the path. Maybe if we're really strong, maybe we have it once a week or once every couple of weeks. But it is so important for us to plug into God, plug into grace, plug into this higher consciousness. So many of us are walking around like a phone that's almost all the way dead. It's out of juice. And it's one of the reasons we show up on retreat is to recharge, to recharge. Someone, sent this email in last week that said they found themselves a little bit disconnected. And, I haven't seen them, they're part of the Sangha, but I haven't seen them in a while. And it's just a common thing that if we disconnect, or if we just get busy with life, we're going to run out of this spiritual juice, this spiritual energy. And so it's good to remain plugged in. I was reflecting, this is a little bit silly, but it's getting warm here in Colorado, here in the Southwest, and a lot of guys are getting out on their motorcycles. And I once had this motorcycle that was really fast motorcycle, like crazy fast. It was fun. And I used to ride it, and I could, ride this thing at 100 miles an hour, like no problem. It was that fast. The bike would only be like halfway throttled at 100. I just want you to think about how fast that thing goes. And so there's all these guys out on their bikes, and sometimes they'll race through the canyons, and it's a real art to riding like a super bike. It's a real art. And I knew how to do that once upon a time. Like I knew how to, get way down low and, on those corners, and, just about touch the ground with the knee, and it's just like, and to be going so fast. And I was just thinking the other day when I was watching some of these boys just take off, in the canyons. And I don't think I still have my technique. I don't think I have that technique. I think I lost it. I think it was a short-lived thing within me. Now, maybe it'd come back if I hop back on that motorcycle and, just did a little training. But for many of us, like, that's what happens to us on the spiritual path. We get excited, and a lot of people in the Sangha have come, have showed up to satsang because of some spontaneous experience. And so it wasn't like they were training in meditation for years and years and build up years of practice and discipline. And some people just, maybe they tried some ayahuasca or something, or they went on some kind of retreat and they had this big experience. And then maybe they stepped away from the experience. Maybe life got busy. Maybe we got a new job or a career or something. Maybe we got sick. Who knows? But very quickly, as quick as that experience came, we can lose it. We can lose it. Or we can slowly fade away on the spiritual path if we don't continue to plug in, to receive. I found myself up in the high country today. It's funny because it's like pretty hot today here in Colorado. And just for one reason or the other, I ended up in the high country up, and just in a little bit of snow. There was a lot of snow up where I was, but I was just, just getting my toes in it just a little bit. And, it's just amazing the worlds we can get lost in. The worlds we can get lost in. There's so much here on planet Earth. But when I was up there in the high country, the beautiful thing about the high country is there is so much. It's like you're flooded with silence because there's just nothing up there. It's like you and maybe some elk, and I was kind of chasing on an elk trail today, just kind of following where it went. But there was nothing up there. No one was up there. So utterly silent, so pristine, so pure. And it felt so good just to plug into the vast expanse of nothingness. And just to allow whatever it is that's burdensome to empty out, to release, to fall away. And many of us, we just live in this way where we're just busy, 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 constantly filling our mind with, whatever it is that's on the internet or on Netflix, or if we live in the city, it's like, oh, let me check out this restaurant and let me go here and there and we take this class and that class. And most of us in the modern age, we don't have any time just in silence. And it's beautiful today because for one reason or another, my family, they were off doing something else. And I was just like, okay, I'll just go do this. I'm just going to walk in the mountains. Nothing to think about, nothing to do, nothing to achieve, nowhere to get to. And just seeing the absolute beauty, the expanse of the sky, and these giant snow-capped mountains just almost like slapping you in the face with their beauty, with their power, with their majesty. It's just like it like shocks you into this grounded, sense of awakeness. It's just awestruck. And I see these mountains every day, but sometimes you just go on a little hike and it's like seeing them for the first time. It's like seeing everything for the first time. And that's the invitation here, is if and when we find ourselves burdened, or we find ourselves just full of life. Sometimes we're full of worry and anxiety. We're full of financial struggle or strife, or maybe we watch too much news. We watch too much news and we get carried away. I hope no one in the Sangha is like watching the what is that thing, the Donald Trump trials. I say trials with an S on it. It just seems like that boy, they're just always chasing him. But I hope that you don't fill your consciousness with someone else's troubles. And whether that be, a celebrity or a president, potential president, or your partner, because sometimes, like in relationship, we just take on our partner's stuff. We take on their insanity. They get lost, and we join them in being lost. They go a little crazy, and we can join them in the crazy if we want. If we want. Or we can stay free. We can stay open. We can say, no, I'm not going to follow you there. I'm not going to follow you down that rabbit hole. Now, you don't have to say that out loud, but sometimes we can just say it internally. Like, no, I'm just not gonna go there with them. But there's something, quite bizarre when we live together, when we're in relationship. It's like our karma merges with the other person or the other people. Sometimes I watch these cult documentaries. I think I told you all this a couple of weeks ago. I watched a new one, Murder Krishna's Gurus, something like that. And boy, was it, it was a good one. It was a good one. But like sometimes we just get just lost in the confusion of the people around us. It's like we get involved in this group think. It's like with COVID, we all got involved with this group think, and people got so nutty with it, so nutty. Some people still are nutty, and it's amazing to me, the ones that are still nutty with it. But sometimes we get just sucked into something. And we stop questioning. We stop witnessing. We stop thinking clearly, critical thinking. We lose our autonomy. We lose our power. We lose our clarity because the culture has gone mad. Or our partner, has gone mad. And sometimes it's our children, or our parents. I had this crazy experience yesterday where I was with my daughter, and like we were at her soccer game. She was playing soccer, and there was like an older couple that was sitting next to me, like grandparents of one of the kids, and they had these two little dogs, and reminded me of my little friend Doodles, and I was just like, hey, I like your little dog. Like, And the dogs were like jumping on me and wanted to come say hi. And I had Buster on my lap and, my little dog. And, I was just talking to him and like everything was really sweet. And then their daughter, who's like my age, came and stood like on the other side of me. And so like the parents were on one side and then the daughter was on the other side. So let's be clear here. The grandparents were on one side and then the daughter was on the other side of me. And the daughter just started like going at the mom and dad, telling them they can't sit where they're sitting, and had them like move to the other side of me. And then when they came to the other side of me, she stood on the other side of me. And I was just like, what's going on here? But it's like being in someone's living room. And the daughter started like nitpicking with the parents. And I felt all this energy, this clinginess, this agitation, this codependency. And I was like, oh my God, I am in like, it's like being transported into someone's family room. And like I was in the middle of an argument, but I was just sitting there. I was just sitting there, but I just felt all this energy of strife going back and forth and little power struggles, little manipulations, little jabs. And at one point, I almost got up and be like, "Hey, like, why don't y'all take this somewhere else?" Like I'm just trying to watch my little girl kick the ball. I'm just trying to watch her kick the ball. Can y'all get away from me? Like, run away, like me run away. Someone get out of here. But it was very unpleasant energetically, and also it was really hilarious. I was like, God is trying to show me something here. Just the insanity of family systems, the insanity, and how much of this stuff like we do with each other, where we play these games, with each other, and it's just crazy. It's insane. And when we choose to be free, when we wake up out of samsara, our samsara, when we wake up out of our confusion, one of the great choices is, I'm not playing games. I'm not playing games. I'm not going to play. I'm not going to do that crazy human dynamic. I'm not going to do it. Nope. Nope. And a lot of people think, oh, that means I need to just run away and leave and get a divorce or whatever. It's like, no, you can still be in a relationship and just not play games. There was this great psychologist back in the 70s. I can't remember what his name was, but his like famous book was like The End of Games or something, or No More Games, something. It's just like, no more games. Like, we're not playing. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do this anymore because it's too insane. We're not going to do it. And it's funny, sometimes when we make that choice of just like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to engage in that way. Sometimes the other person will stop also. Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Sometimes. And it's a real beautiful thing when, together, maybe just one person chooses, like, I'm not going to engage in this way. And then just like, how we were talking about before, how groupthink can really suck us in. That cult-like thinking can really suck us in. Sometimes when one person in the group just is like, no, 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 I'm not going to do that anymore. Sometimes then the other people in the group are like, oh, oh. Sometimes there's a collapse of the system, and then a reorientation. And, sometimes it gets a little messy, but ultimately, there's an opportunity for a massive movement of growth. massive movement of freedom. But it requires that we are truthful. And people really get confused about the truth sometimes. Truthful doesn't mean we share everything that's on our mind. Truthful doesn't mean we share all the thoughts and the feelings of our egoic nature. Truthful means you are rooted in the truth. In the truth. The truth it's not an ego thing. It's not a dogma thing. It's not a belief thing. It's not a philosophical thing. Truth is what is true. What is true? When I was up in the mountains today, I saw there was an aspect of my mind that brought up something old from the past that I had tripped over. And I just saw it. I saw the truthful thing, the truth that's happening right now is a big blue sky and a big white mountain, a beautiful, gorgeous white mountain. And, look, there's some elk footprints here. And then there was it's one of those birds. It makes a lot of noise. A grouse. I ran into a grouse. It just made this big, it kind of makes like a thumper kind of noise. It sounds like someone's starting almost like they're trying to start a chainsaw. But there wasn't any problem. Like that old drama wasn't the truth. The truth was the sky was big and blue and vast and silent. That's the truth. That's the truth. But that thing from the mind, from the past, is no longer the truth. It was gone. But sometimes our mind, it's this habitual thing. It wants to dig something up and see if we'll trip over it for a little bit. And I think our mind is just wanting to resolve things, but sometimes things, if you just leave them alone, if you don't touch them, if you give them some space, that thing will resolve without any thought, any doing of your own, without any sorting on your own. And so it's a great question to really to ask yourself is, how do I feel on this path? Do I feel deeply plugged in and nourished and connected by the divine, by your own spirit? Or do you feel something different? You feel lost or isolated or disconnected? And are you taking the time to really stop? To really stop and to allow your mind to empty out, to allow your mind to come to peace, a great peace, not just a momentary peace, but to be shocked by peace, shocked. Shocked into stillness, shocked into emptiness, shocked into freedom. And again, it is an immense gift we all can give ourselves to take the time and do nothing, be nothing, just to be a nobody for a while, for a day or two or three or four. To give up all that self-concern. And of course, I'm speaking about that self-concern where we just make ourselves crazy by chasing all these little needs that I never get met by, chasing this thing or that thing, but actually will be met through just stopping and being with the heart and being in silence and finding true peace. Because that's really at the heart of almost all of our needs. Is giving yourself permission just to stop. Just to stop. And to be here fully. To be here fully. To be in this moment. Later this afternoon when I got home, my daughter had a friend over, and these two little girls came screaming at me when I got home, and he said, Daddy, will you take us to the river? And I was like, okay, let's go to the river. And so we went down to the river. And so here I was up in the snow, and then I came down and got in the river. And our river right now, it's I don't know, maybe it's 42 degrees. It's 48 degrees. It's cold. It's just melted snow is what it is. And this little Ukrainian girl, my daughter's friend, like she really wanted to go out. And when I say like we get in the river, it's like you dip your toes in, but she really wanted to get in the river. And I was like, all right. And so she went out there and dunked in, and I was like, wow, you're brave. You're brave. But she's here. She's here. She's in the moment. She's not in some faraway place. And listen, this girl has had her home blown out, like her windows all blown out in her apartment. Like she no longer has the apartment anymore from that war. And she came and, fled the country and refugees and all that. She has all kinds of trauma she could speak about. But she's here and she's alive and she's awake. She's like, I want to go jump in that cold river. And I'm like, yes, let's go jump in that cold river. Let's go jump in that cold river. Let's be here in this moment. And let everything fall away. Let us be alive and let us scream because the river's cold. Let us scream because of something for real. Let us not inwardly just scream while making up stories or scenarios or oh my God, what if Donald Trump gets elected again? Like, we don't need to be lost in that world. We can be in this world, in this moment, and scream appropriately. Scream appropriately. We can smile appropriately. We can be in awe appropriately. That doesn't sound right. Awe appropriately. We can be in awe. Just be, if your eyes are open, you walk around planet Earth, you will be in awe. You know, my teacher, I've told this story before, but my teacher played this game. So his teacher, Hilda, told him, I want you, to go out and walk around, and everyone you see, say, this too is God. This too is God. And he was in Manhattan. And so he walked around Manhattan. This too is God. And this too is God. 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 And after a couple minutes, he was just seeing absolute beauty everywhere. Absolute beauty. Absolute beauty. This is back in the 70s or 80s in Manhattan. Like, you could say, you could be scared for your life, back then. I think New York was a lot rougher back then, but I hear it's getting rough again, but I don't know. I haven't been there. I haven't been there. But can we see life with an open heart? Can we experience life with an open heart? Can we not just play this game of working ourselves up in our mind with fear after fear after fear? Can we go out into the world and actually see, is there anything I need to be afraid of? Is there anything I need to be afraid of? Now I'm going to tell a little bit, a political story. I hope, I'm just going to say this. So, of course, here in the United States, we have this whole thing going on with the border, and it's just open, and people are just flooding in, millions of people. And, of course, there's always multiple sides to a story, and this and that, and perspectives. But I've told a couple people, last month I went climbing down on the border, and, people who are plugged into the news are like, oh my God, what's it like down there? Was it crazy? Were you safe? And it's just like, this border is thousands and thousands of miles long. Like, it's not just people pouring over just everywhere. Like, I went down the mountains, I didn't see anybody. It's just me and my buddies climbing. I didn't see, some crazy thing like they're showing on the news. And then next I told, the same people that I'm going to San Diego next week for a retreat. And they're like, San Diego's overrun with migrants. Oh my God, they're taking over. It's like, I'm sure it's going to be just fine. I'm sure it's going to be just fine. This is a big country and people spread out. In fact, I was just hanging out with one of the migrants, this little Ukrainian girl, and she didn't pose any danger. No, some of the other ones, maybe, who knows? There's always some bad apples, Uh, if I came to, someone else's country, they might not want me there. I understand that. But like, sometimes we just get carried away. Sometimes we get carried away. And we project our fear. We project our fear. And we lose our mind. We lose our clarity, or we just lose touch with reality. Now, keep in mind, I certainly know there's all kinds of terrible things happening on the border, with fentanyl and human trafficking and, modern day slavery and, all kinds of drugs coming across. Like, I know all about that. But I also know that big picture and vast view, it's all going to be okay. Even when it's not okay, it's all going to be okay. And sometimes we do have to do something, and sometimes we just need to relax. And just see what the truth is. And when we're relaxed and we actually look out at the world and we see what the truth is, often we find this energy comes forward and moves us on this higher path, this higher way, this higher intelligence. We might find our intelligence is much different than a rational, dogmatic, or philosophical, quote unquote, intelligence, conditioning. When you allow yourself to be silent, when you allow your heart to be open, sometimes you just find, oh, my heart just wants to forgive this person, just wants to forgive. My heart's ready to let go. My heart is ready to be compassionate. Even if sometimes our mind is saying, no. We need to make them pay. We need to make them pay. We need to make them pay. So anyways, let's hear from Catherine. Hi, Catherine. Are you here?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Um, yeah, this brought up so much for me. And I feel like I can sense what you're pointing to, which is like this right action that's emerging out of like this peace and contact with what is in the moment.
Yes.
Yeah. And I guess the questions that are arising for me in that are like, because you also talked about family dynamics of power and like feeling like you were getting caught in the crossfire within this family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I'm feeling like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of crossfire in our general human family, which just feels
Yeah.
like what you're pointing to as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like just kind of, and I was noticing what was coming up for me was like this, I want answers. Like demands from my mind of like, I want
Yes.
my
Because
mind,
why?
because
What
I
will
want my mind. Hmm?
what will an answer do for you?
What is the answer for me?
What will an answer do for you? That part of you that wants answers, like I want answers.
Yeah.
So that part of you, what does it think that having all the answers will do for it?
It's demanding like marching orders. Like it's
Yeah,
like
yeah. So if it had marching orders, how does that aspect of your mind think it will feel?
it's control. I think it feels like
Yeah,
I'll have a
yeah.
sense
I'll have a
of
greater sense of control. Like if I have
control.
all the
Yeah.
answers, then I'll have control. And if I have control, I'll be more safe, or I'll be safer. And,
Yeah.
again, like all that arises out of fear. And what I'm inviting is a basic trust in life that it'll all be okay if we don't have every answer right now in front of us, and that we can just trust and just see. And sometimes we just ask, God, what is the next step for me right now? Like, what's
Yeah.
the next step right now? And often, God or truth or divine intelligence, intuition, whatever we want to call this, will just give us like a little breadcrumb, just like one little snippet. Like sometimes, like I find myself like in a crazy situation, and I say, God, what should I do? And it's funny, I've had this question for a long time, and it just says, stay. I'm
Mm.
like, okay. Stay. Stay. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna hang out, and I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I'm not gonna say anything, and I'm just gonna see if something changes in the other. And so just this teaching of just, I get this breadcrumb of just stay. And it's like, okay. Never does God come and say, go tell them this, go tell them how they're wrong. Like, God's not telling me that. God just says, just stay. Just stay put. And like with this energy of staying, often it's an energy of just being and listening and not engaging like in the craziness.
Yeah.
Not engaging. And to me, I've kind of given up on answers, having all the answers. It's just like, I'm just going to listen in this moment, and see what comes. See what comes. Yeah. Yeah. And so is there more there?
I guess I feel like the answer is probably the same, but I feel like there's also a level of internal crossfire from the expectations of my own fear. Like I'm projecting negative expectations onto my environment because
Mm-hmm.
of my past history. And so it's like
Yeah.
reacting to this thing that doesn't
Yeah.
exist, doesn't have to be a
Yeah. Yeah.
person.
Yeah. And that's where it's so good just to really stop and to
Yeah.
look and see, like, is this thing that I'm thinking, like, is it happening
Yeah.
or not? Like, is it happening? Because so often, like, we show up in relationship and we have this long argument with all this history. And, the person's not doing the thing we think they're doing. They're just hanging out, eating Cheetos or whatever it is they're doing. But they're like, they're not doing the whole thing. But we're projecting that whole thing onto them.
Yeah.
And, that creates a tremendous amount of pain for us. And it actually causes pain for them too, because then we don't see them. Like we don't actually see who they are. Like I get in this thing all the time with my wife. Like sometimes she'll just like we'll really get into it. And I'll just look at her and I'll be like, oh my God, like you're so beautiful. you know, it's just like I can't keep up the story of whatever it is I think she's doing or whatever it is. I just see her for what she is. This beautiful being. And often, like when I can just see her beauty, I see, oh, maybe she is doing that thing I was thinking she was doing, but it's coming out of confusion. It's arising out of confusion. It's arising out of her pain. And whereas sometimes, like when we project, we often think that the person is doing it on purpose to hurt us, when really they're doing it because they're in pain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking about this in the context of like institutions,
Yeah.
not
So
just people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we have to be careful because institutions are made up of a bunch of
People.
individuals, and a
Yeah.
lot of times it's really good individuals.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe a lot of them are asleep or whatever, and that allows that group dynamic to continue. But we have to be careful because I've done this so many times when I was young, is I would kind of show up with a real fight in me, like
Yeah.
against some great institution. And the person would be like, hey man, like I'm not making all these rules and policies. I'm just like this person. I'm just this person right here at the desk. And I could see it. I was like, oh my God, I'm just like lynching this person. I'm killing them with all my words and my violent thoughts. And they're just like the desk person. Like it's just like the front desk person. And it's just like that. They didn't make this rule, like they didn't do any of this. Maybe some, institutional person did, but like they didn't. They didn't. And that's always like really stopped me in my tracks is like, oh, I'm projecting all this thing on them. And that's not fair. And that's not fair. And then, then the other thing is is kind of true too with, like, a lot of times if we want that institution to change, sometimes we got to join with it and really work a really slow, patient, slow, patient work from the inside. And a lot of people, that is very difficult. Like I couldn't pull that off because it just makes me so mad. It makes me so mad, the speed at which institutions change. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
difficult. It's difficult, but like someone like you know who Richard Rohr is?
no.
No, he's a Catholic priest, and he tried like real, he was a great reformer, and he just tried really hard to work inside the Catholic Church, and they just hated him. They just hated him. Like they were so mean and rude to him, but he tried and tried for like decades and decades of his life to reform the church from the inside. And it was just really painful, difficult work, to do. And it takes a special kind of person. It's a lot easier to stand on the outside and just throw rotten tomatoes. But, normally things don't change unless we're working on the inside, of a big institution. And if there's a group of us working on the inside, but again,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard. You look like you're pondering that. It's like, like you don't want
Yeah,
to.
because I'm in it and it's hard.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
hard. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah,
And it's hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And often it's thankless too, because you're working against, you're working against, and boy, is that just hard for the soul or the spirit when you're in institution and it's thankless, or if you just have a different vision than what they have, that's really hard. That's tough work. Yeah, yeah.
I guess it's a personal question then. Like, do you stay in and fight in, or do you go and try and build your own thing?
Yeah, yeah. Well, like a personal question, I always put all my personal questions to God and just say, God, like, show me the way. And see,
Yeah,
like,
that's
that's
good.
where, like, when you hear that stay, like when I ask, my question that I trip over and I hear stay, it's like, okay, I'm gonna stay here. It's gonna be hard. It's always easier to leave, That's why, just everyone's ready to run. Everyone's ready to quit. But it's hard to stay. But you ask the divine, you ask your heart,
Yeah.
you ask that, that intuitive intelligence within you, and you see what the response is. And I encourage you to listen to that. Because sometimes we have an idea, like when I was young, I had a crusader in me. And but I realized like that was just one of my archetypes, and it wasn't the strongest archetype. It was like I had like a little bit of a crusader, but it was like, no, that's not Craig's highest truth. It's not my highest truth to do that. It's just not. It's just not. And so uh that archetype could kind of fade into the background.
Yeah.
It's gonna fall away and you know dissolve itself or whatever, liberate itself. But you have to really ask and listen. That's a great question of inquiry. It's like, should I stay or should I go? Should I stay or should I go? Like the famous, Clash song. Should I stay or should I go? Like what's the truth here, God? And so and even open it up to the third option, because with inquiry, we want to keep it open-ended. Like, okay, God, you show me. And we're not thinking about it. Because if you're in your head, we can come up with rational arguments and convince ourselves one way or the other. We're really just coming into our heart and sitting deeply and opening and saying, okay, you show me the way. You show me the way, and see what comes. See what comes. See what the highest truth is. Yeah.
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 I feel pretty clear.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
feel really clear. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
quite
yeah.
clear.
So you listen to the clarity and then we act
Yeah.
upon it. We listen and we act upon it. And for some
Yeah.
people, like, that's really scary. They're like, oh, some people really rely on institutions because they provide safety.
Yeah.
And me, I just I felt like the opposite is safe in an institution. I felt like, geez, they're going to suck my soul away, or I can't do it. I can't do it personally. I'm not wired to be in an institution. And so at some point, I pull that, that eject button. I just like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I can't do this. It's not my truth. It's not my truth to be a part of a big organization. Yeah. Yeah. Well, beautiful, Catherine. Good to be with you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Much love. Much love. All right. Okay. Let's see. I had someone email a question. Let me make sure I get to this one. Hi, Craig. I am 4 years into my Kundalini awakening process. Recently, I have been in this period of waking up daily with major feelings of anxiety, along with lots of body kriyas. It has been going on for a few months and seems unusual. The anxiety might relate to my feeling stuck in life, but it feels excessive. Could this just be a temporary stage of Kundalini process, or do you think there may be more to it? More to it psychologically that I'm not aware of. Thanks. Yeah, there's probably something more to it. Almost always anxiety is going to have a psychological origin. And just like I was speaking with Catherine a moment ago, and we just questioned a little bit, and she said, well, there's this part of her that wanted to control. And so often with anxiety, there's something within us that wants to control, or something that's fearful. Again, those are like just two sides of the same coin. You said in the question here that there's this feeling of being stuck in life. And so if we can't figure out like what it is, it's often because we're avoiding. Like if we just take a little bit of time in silence and really ask, like place your hand on your heart and say, what's going on here? Like, what is this anxiety about? And really listen to the anxiety. And again, this is a skill. This is one of those inquiry skills where we ask and we listen deeply. And I encourage you literally to place your hands where the anxiety is and see if you can feel a response from where the anxiety is. So in this, anxiety is almost always in the upper heart chakra area, the chest, And so we're asking our heart, like, why do I feel stuck? What is this anxiety about? What am I tripping over? And sometimes we ask, like, what's here that I don't want to see? What's here that I've been avoiding? What's here that I know, but I've kind of been covering up this knowledge? Because humans are crazy creatures. We are masters at lying to ourselves. We're masters at lying to others, and we're masters at lying to ourselves. And again, anxiety really goes away when you're deeply honest. When you're deeply honest with yourself and you say, oh yeah, like if you just admit, like, I'm scared about this thing, often the anxiety will release, and you might feel some sadness there, and you might have a little bit of a cry. But so often anxiety is healed not through taking pills, but through having a good cry. Just being like, oh, I'm so sad about this. I'm so sad. And like the day before Doodles died, like I knew he was dying. And I found myself just like running around town, like running all these errands. And I was like, man, what am I doing? Like, why am I trying to get all this stuff done? And I realized I just need to stop. and just be with my buddy. Like that's like, and as soon as I just stopped and was with him, I just started crying and crying and crying because I love him so much. Because I just love my buddy so much, and I knew I was losing him. But sometimes we run in the future, we run on the internet, we run here and there. Sometimes we run and attack other people so we don't have to feel our own anxiety. It's like we take our anxiety and we just throw it all over them. That's a fun thing that humans do is we feel anxious, and so we just go to someone and we just get all up in their business and give them a hard time, and we're fighting with them. And it's a way of kind of like flinging our anxiety off us and onto them or onto the relationship. And again, like people play crazy games with each other, insane games. And this path of being awake is us choosing to say, no, no more games. I want to stop lying to myself and to, the others. I'm going to stop lying. I'm going to stop lying. I'm just going to be honest. And I'm going to allow this honesty to liberate me. To liberate me. To free me. To free me. But with anxiety, often anxiety continues through this real subtle form of us lying to ourselves. It's like, I'm going to avoid the fact that I'm really sad or I'm really scared. And I'm just going to hang out in my head and think. And if I just stop thinking and just be with what's here, then I have a good cry. But if I have a good cry and I'm compassionate with myself, and then I go and I look for that anxiety, I'm like, where's all that anxiety? It's gone. It's gone. It empties out. Okay. All right. This is from Don. I was led to work in the world of science to support people who have seen a revolution brewing in science. It's been over 3 decades, and I don't expect to see significant results in my lifetime. But I've always been inspired by the founder of quantum physics, Max. Well, I don't know how to say that name. Planck, who said, "Science precedes funeral by funeral." Oh yeah, I've heard that quote before. Yeah, okay. All right. Let me think if there's anything else here, guys. I don't think there is. So, a couple of you showed up late. We have a retreat coming up this week in person. I hope to see most of you there. We have an online retreat May 31st through June 2nd. You can sign up for that online on my website. And no Kundalini group this week, which will be, I believe, the 24th of April, 2024. And no meditation and no satsang on the 28th. And there's a small chance I'll be at one of those or all of them. And if so, I'll post it on Facebook. Okay. I did all the announcing. Let us close down our eyes. Let's pray for greater peace here on planet Earth. Peace in ourselves, peace in our families, peace in our communities, peace in our relationships, peace in this country, peace in all countries. May we all be conduits of great peace, great stillness, great love, now and forevermore. And Lord God, if there's anything within us that we trip over, anything where we are stuck or confused, if there's any ways where we're lost or tripping in the shadows, make it clear, make it apparent. Please help to free us from this suffering, this pain and confusion that we are afflicted with, so that we may go forth serving your will and your truth, the expansion of consciousness here on planet Earth. We give of ourselves, we show up, we hear your call. So we invite you to use us, Lord, to be conduits of your grace. Okay. So much love to each of you. Good night, everyone. See you soon.